Hey everybody! Hi everyone! Hey everybody! It's Mike with Games Played Badly. Today we have our very first guest, somebody that a lot of you already know. The man, the one, the only. The man who started the TTRPG solidarity movement on Twitter, Old Gits and Dragons. Our first guest today on Session 0 with Games Played Badly. Coming up now.
Hello. Can
There
you hear
you
me?
are.
Excellent. How's it going?
I'm good. How are you?
Not bad at all, thank you. Yes, we've got proper connection here.
Yeah, I made it home in one piece. I take it.
Yeah, absolutely. The weather's turned though now. It's peeing it down.
Yeah, we've got about 4 or 5 inches of snow here. So
we live right by the coast. I'm literally 2 fields from our back door is the sea. And it just never snows here. We can see the snow on the mountains, but just hardly ever here.
oh wow.
We'll have to see. Envy people that have proper snow.
Yeah, it's always nice until you have to shovel it.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
know? Well, I appreciate you doing this with me.
No, it's fine. It's great.
This is the first time we're going to do this. I'm going to try and do it with a bunch of other people too. Part of
Yeah.
it being, with the TTRPG solidarity, which who knew that was going to be a thing?
Not me. It was a kind of an experiment, but it obviously worked very, very, very well. So
Right.
yeah,
And
couldn't
because
keep
of
up
that,
with
it
it.
inspired me to go ahead and talk to all these people that I didn't know existed.
Exactly. Yeah, it's been a brilliant way to get to know everyone.
I mean, are you amazed by kind of some of the creativity? Like there was somebody today that I followed that just does stuff about gnomes.
I saw
Uh,
there's t-shirt makers, people that make dice bags, screen printing, miniature painting, so many map makers and graphic designers out there I just didn't know existed.
oh yeah, and tons of homebrew creations. People
Yeah,
are, people are creating their own stuff on the fly and selling it.
yeah,
When people have Patreons, I feel obligated to go and at least subscribe for a month.
yeah,
Just to try and help them out because they are
yeah.
working hard.
Oh, very much so. It's a living for most people, or it's supplementing their living, definitely.
Oh, absolutely. So
Yeah,
you and I met on Twitter probably about a month ago or so. And one of the things that caught my eye was you were posting a
yeah,
bunch about
sounds
historical
about right.
armors and weaponry.
Yeah, absolutely. I used to do medieval living history and Viking living history. So medieval for me was Wars of the Roses period, so 1450, 1485.
Hmm.
I got so deeply into it. Every single weekend was spent. If I wasn't at a medieval event, I was making clothing, leather work, cleaning
Wow.
armor, practicing, making shoes, all sorts of different things. And reading and constantly reading. Every single spare minute was spent with a head in a book, a medieval textbook, just reading about the period. And through that, I got to know some incredibly talented people like John Howe, the fantasy artist. He worked
Hmm.
on Lord of the Rings. I sort of had conversations with him about sort of armor and New Zealand and things like that because he was over there filming at the time.
Hmm.
Um, I got friendly with the Perry twins, who pretty much set up Citadel Miniatures because they were in the group that I was in.
Oh, wow.
Um, that that was a bit of a moment for me because what started me off with the whole fantasy and role playing was miniatures. I was given a dwarf in about 1986, and from then on, I was hooked. I had to get them.
Right.
So I spent every single penny I had on wargaming miniatures, Warhammer, anything to do with that. So I lost a lot of my teenage years in my room painting, and I entirely blame the Perry twins for that because most of them were made by the Perrys. So yeah, meeting them was cool. Some fabulous armorers, some of the best in the country met.
Huh.
Got to handle the stuff that they were making, watch them making it as well sometimes. Got to spend a lot of time in some amazing castles as well. That was one of the best things about medieval living history, is you get to stay in the castles and stay there after the public go home. So
Oh
it was
wow.
brilliant. It was great,
Yeah, I'm
great,
sure. So
great fun.
that definitely. Now, how did your, obviously talk about the miniature work that you did when you were young? How'd that lead you into Dungeons and Dragons?
Um, just hugely interested in fantasy and science fiction, and I'd heard about Dungeons and Dragons, but never even played played it. I read where I used to live that there was a group locally that played or did role playing. So I was very brave at the time. I was only about 14 or 15. Um, phoned phoned up, made contact, and went and spent Sunday afternoon with a bunch of blokes that were at least 10 years my senior.
Hmm.
And yeah, had a whale of a time. We were playing GURPS, I think. Um, didn't play Dungeons and Dragons itself, AD&D, until I moved to Wales, and I joined again, I wasn't in the university here. I was only 16 when I moved to Wales. There's a university in our local town, and they had a very, very big active role-playing club, and I went there every Sunday again. And from sort of 10 o'clock in the morning until 7, 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night, we'd sit in the student union playing Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
I've still got friends from that period, which is like the early 90s. Yeah, that was it. It was
Yeah.
through the miniatures and an interest in fantasy that sort of progressed on into the role playing.
Yeah, I think that's kind of, we're probably around the same age. And
Yeah,
Dungeons and Dragons as a young person can be pretty challenging emotionally.
yeah,
You're exploring some things you wouldn't normally explore at 16 years old or be willing to express.
no, yeah. You're confronting death for starters. That never happens in most
Right.
kids. Death, thieving, all sorts of stuff that you just wouldn't even contemplate. Gets kids thinking about a lot of topics they would not necessarily think about normally.
Hmm. Yeah, I think it lends itself to a more well-rounded human being when you role play, because you're able to step out
Yeah,
of yourself a little bit. And so now, from the standpoint of Twitter, what I mean, I noticed that you have a blog. I've read through it, and
yeah.
it's a
Thank you.
bunch of stuff. It looks like you have some story ideas up there. You have some
Yeah,
personal stories about you running for weight loss and things like that.
yeah, yeah. Trying to
So
get
I
that
mean,
going again.
what is your blog meant to be? Just kind of a smattering of everything, a
It
stream of
it's it
consciousness.
it's the inside of my head put onto the internet basically, and it just
Yeah.
shows how random my thoughts are at most on a daily basis. I like writing, but I can't. I find it very difficult to pick a theme and stick with it. So new ideas will come into my head, and I'll just write about that and get it out of my system, and then move on to the next thing. The only thing that's been constant for the last, I don't know, 5, 6 years is that idea for a book I've had. But again, I'll pick it up, read it again, do some editing, write a bit more, put it back down again. And I think if I serialize that, and possibly it'll inspire me to keep going a bit more, then if I know I've got to get the next episode out next week, it'll mean I'll write another 1,000 words.
Right. Yeah, I've had an idea that I'm going to start working on this year, which is basically it's a book of first chapters. So it's,
All right.
it's like it's hamburger helper to the player's hamburger, so the DM can go through
Yeah.
and read through and run through a pre-written jumping off point, and then they can run the adventure after that. But it's a
Good
way
idea.
for them to get players together, get them interacting, and get them locked in so that they value each other's company, because without that a group doesn't
Yeah.
function, right?
Yeah. The best games I ever played were with a Canadian friend of mine. He lived in Aberystwyth for a year when I moved here. So he was one of the first people I met here. And he is a writer now, a professional writer. I've not seen him for over 30 years. And he never used to write anything down. He never used to plan anything. The only thing he used to do was he would have a pen and paper to keep track of hit points for some of his creatures that he'd occasionally throw at us. and his
Right.
games were amazing. They were so immersive. The way he could completely draw you into what was going on, just make it up as he went along. Oh, they were fabulous things. And he'd remember the next week what he'd already spoken about the previous week. So he was a very talented writer, very creative.
Right, and I think that's you. Not everyone can DM. It's
No.
a difficult process.
Yeah,
So I would imagine with
he
all
was
the study that you went through, with all the medieval studies that you went through, all the stuff you were interested in as a child, that it probably lent you to actually
yeah.
getting into DMing pretty seriously.
Um, yeah, I think I've probably done more DMing than actually playing.
Hmm.
Definitely.
Yeah,
We used to
forever
kind of
DM.
take we used to kind of take it in turns on a Sunday. We'd sort of a few weeks one person would do it, and then a few weeks another person would do it. We were quite good like that, but it ended up being just two of us that would kind of swap every three or 4 weeks.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, I've DM'd more than I've played, definitely.
Yeah,
I'm kind of looking forward to playing a lot
I tend to DM more now than
of
I
games.
play.
Yeah,
It
it
is
is the
what
only
it
way to
is.
get a game sometimes as well. Yeah, sometimes there's not many people willing to DM, but they'll quite happily play. So if I was going to get any kind of Dungeons and Dragons action, I'd had to DM it myself, basically.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that's totally it's totally a cheap
Yeah,
tactic that players use. Like, I'm not DMing, so we're not playing. So if you want to play, you've got to DM, you know.
yeah, exactly. It's a bit
Are
unfair,
you
really, but
actively
you
playing and
go along
DMing
with
right
it.
now?
Sorry,
Are
no,
you actively DMing now?
no, we're not. I'm not. We are going to start. Uh, hopefully, going through some character creation tomorrow night with someone else we met off Twitter.
Well, that's
Um,
fun.
D&D fifth edition. Never played it. Not got any of the rule books. No idea what the differences are between that and second edition AD&D, which is what I played and
Yeah, you've been out of the loop
continue
for
to
a
play
minute.
a long time. And the last time I actually played was about 10 years ago, and even that was still AD&D second edition because that's what I insisted on. So yeah, looking forward to it, and my wife's going to join in. She's never played at all, has no idea what's going on, so it's going to be a bit of an experience for both of us.
Oh, that's gonna be fantastic. I'm really excited for both of you.
Yeah, no, it's going to be good.
Is it gonna be like a one shot, or is it gonna be a continuing adventure?
I've got a feeling it's going to be a one or two shot. I think it's going to be a short one, but might carry on depending on how it goes.
All right, I have a few questions for you that I actually did write down.
Yeah,
So the tabletop RPG solidarity hashtag took off. You did it first. I jumped. I was like one of the first ones in the thread. I was like, "This is awesome,"
yeah,
and then it turned into.
yeah,
I went from having 100 followers to having 400 and something over the course of like 2 weeks.
yeah.
What has been the most fun about that for you?
Waking up every morning and picking up the phone and looking at Twitter and seeing more mentions than I can actually cope with,
Mhm.
and seeing so many people really, really happy to make a lot of new contacts and friends and new
Mhm.
ideas and business ideas and all these different opportunities that are springing up. Because it's not just about gaming for people. Like I say, it's potentially an income stream for them. It's just been fabulous. It really is cool. That's what solidarity is all about. It's about people sticking with each other and standing up for each other and supporting each other. So it worked perfectly well as far as I'm concerned.
I completely agree. Again, I like we were talking earlier. I mean, I've met so many different people who do so many wonderful things that are so they're
Yeah,
very neat. You know, I mean, they have a very specific thing that they're very, very good at. And you never
yeah,
knew that you needed it until you see them do it. And you're like, man, I really need that product.
yeah, exactly. I've not come across many AD&D second edition people yet, but I've people talking about apocalyptic stuff, which I'm also really interested in after watching Mad Max at about aged 8 or whenever it was that it came out. Um,
Mhm.
so yeah, I've got some ideas for post-apocalyptic stuff, which I'm mulling over. found links and resources that I never knew existed, like Drive Through D&D, whatever it's called,
Oh
or D&D
yeah.
Drive Through. I don't know what it's.
Hmm.
That place, it's phenomenal.
DM's Guild is
And
real good too.
yeah, I've not even dipped into that one yet, but that's something else that I need to have a look at. It's just there's almost too much out there now to cope with. If you coming back into it, I need to just go slowly, otherwise I'm just going to get overwhelmed.
Uh-huh. Well, and that's kind of where I'm at. I mean, up until probably a year ago, I hadn't really touched a D&D book until since 2003.
Yeah,
And then we have the group that I DM for, kind of a one-shot situation. For that, we had the one shot, and then everybody really still wanted to play, but life got in the way, so we just didn't get a chance to play.
yeah,
So as of last year, or 2018, I believe, or 2019, we started
yeah.
gaming again, but they're nowhere near us. They're all the way in a different state. So we do all of our gaming
Right.
over Facebook and stuff like that. So it works out really
Yeah.
well, and we've had a very, very good run. And one of the guys who was originally playing eventually started DMing. So he has his own adventure. So we have two different adventures going on at the same time.
Oh wow, excellent.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
I'm a little bit nervous about how it's going to be online. I've never done it online before.
Mm.
The chap that is going to be running it has mentioned using Discord and Roll D20. I'm on Discord. I find it really confusing. There's too much going on for me, so I've
Right.
just kind of just pushed it away. Roll D20 again. I've subscribed, but until someone really goes through it with me, I have no idea. It's not that I'm a technophobe. It's just I'm coming very late into some of these things,
Yeah.
so I can use Teams, Zoom, all that sort of stuff. But everything else, I'll experience it when I experience it. I'm not going to go hunting it out just yet. I prefer face to face.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if we could do it, I would do it. I mean, we went to our friend's house for a gaming week and just played D&D,
Yeah.
played all the board games. Like we quarantined before we left. We quarantined once we got back. We were super safe, but we had to get the hell out of the house.
Yeah. We're not we don't even have that option at the moment. We're completely locked down here. We can't travel or anything.
Yeah.
It's grim. Can't wait for it to be finished.
Yeah, I know, me either. Yeah, the sooner the better. And I think
Yeah.
out of all the people who really this affects, when you start thinking about like role players, D&D people, things like that, I mean, it's hard not being able to physically congregate and play your games, because for a lot of
Yeah.
us, it was our lifeblood. I mean,
Yeah.
we grew up with it. So
Do you think the gregarious nature of role players is coming out in things like Twitter? Because we're seeing how chatty it is. That's what really shocked me, because I used to do social media for a living, and the level and enjoyment of conversation I'm getting with the TTRPG crowd compared to everything else I used to do, it's of a much higher magnitude. It's fabulous.
I would agree with you. As a matter of fact, I was thinking that today, because now my feed is just stuffed with TTRPG people, So I'm like,
Yeah.
there's so much flying at you.
Yeah.
But I mean, the level of conversation isn't smiley face. It's let's break something down together and talk about something. I mean, I think it
Yeah.
is then again the gregarious nature of role players that is manifesting itself on Twitter, because there's nobody else to talk to.
No.
So it's like,
Yeah. Yeah.
all right, I have one last thing.
Totally get that. Yeah.
This is
That's
something
cool.
I
Go
call
for it.
I have a speed round. So I'm going to ask
Right.
you
Oh
5 or
dear.
6 questions. Just shoot off the first thing that comes out of your mind.
Yeah.
Tea or
Okay.
coffee?
Oh, coffee.
How do you take it?
Arabic coffee. Got to be. Made by my wife is the best.
Good answer. Whiskey or beer?
Don't drink.
Oh, okay. Well, then neither.
No. Neither. Used to be beer, but not anymore.
Right. Movie or book?
Oh, book. Absolutely book.
Yeah. Morning or evening?
Morning. Very much a morning person.
Yeah, I think I am too, actually. I remember up at the crack of dawn, so
yeah.
I always feel like I wake up early because I always feel like I'm going to miss something if I don't.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I like the odd line, but I tend to up morning early anyway because of work and children and whatnot. So
Oh,
how
right.
it works. Yeah,
I get that.
yeah.
Favorite D&D class?
Oh, I'm so boring. Fighter all the time. I'm really, really dull. I can't help it.
Favorite D&D race? I can almost get what you're gonna say.
Um, I actually like half orcs and half ogres a little bit.
Okay, not the
Yeah,
direction I thought you were going.
I used to be a dwarf mad, but I kind of got fed up with them. So something with a little bit of a twisted background, I quite like.
Favorite D&D
Okay,
weapon?
yeah, sure, definitely. Um, Now this is where I'm getting slightly clouded. I love swords. I've had loads of them, but in terms of pure practicality, you can't go wrong with a hammer.
I guess that's true. Um, and the last one, rolling or role playing?
Um, Prefer role playing to just rolling.
Hmm. Yeah, I would agree
A
with you
bit
on
of
that.
both. I need a game where you get loads and loads of encounters and monsters and traps and things. They're always the same.
Oh, I'm sorry. I think I'm losing you again. Hold on. Let me see if this is clearing up. I don't know.
I'm back. You're back. Yeah, I've got you.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. We're back. Um,
Okay.
well, yes, I agree. A good old dungeon crawl is one of my favorite things on the planet. So I do appreciate you coming and talk to me. We will do this again. I
No,
guarantee
I
you.
appreciate the offer.
Oh, absolutely. I'd love to talk to you
Fabulous.
again
Thank you.
because there's some cool stuff to talk about with the race dynamics. There's some really cool topics to discuss, and I think you'd be a
Yeah.
perfect to do that. So
Yeah. Come back to me after I've played 5th edition to find out how I'll get on.
oh, absolutely. Before and after.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
All right, Rich, it was my pleasure.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. Take care.
Yes. Have a great one.
You too. Ta-da. Bye-bye.
Take care.
Bye-bye.